Hello and welcome back to Live from Paris. It's time now for business news with William Edwards, who joins me now. Hello, William.
Hi, Lorna.
So, of course, the Algerian energy industry in focus very much today, given that hostage-taking at the plant in the east of the country. But how important is oil and gas to the economy of Algeria?
It is massively important. It makes up 36% of the country's gross domestic product, and even more, actually, of the government's revenue. 60% of taxes come from the oil and gas industry. And that's partly because all development has to be made in partnership with the state oil company Sonatrach, which, of course, the base which was attacked was partly a Sonatrach operation. On a global scale, Algeria is the 6th largest exporter of natural gas and in 14th place for oil exports. And it is Europe's 3rd largest source of natural gas, actually. And for the United States is their biggest customer. So this will be getting quite a lot of attention, not just in Brussels, but in Washington as well.
And I can imagine then the government very keen to protect that industry.
Indeed, but they haven't been without their challenges, not just this recent, of course, Mali sort of difficulties, but also before that, of course, after the end of this civil war in Algeria in 2002, there was still continued violence against oil facilities and against oil workers. And just last year, actually, Mujao in June, that's one of the Islamist groups which is based in Mali and which is part of this, which is being fought by the French forces in this intervention now. They launched a suicide attack in a southern oil town, and the Algerian government said they were stepping up security in response to that.
OK, well, we'll, of course, be keeping an eye on the situation in Algeria here on France 24. But we're going to move now to look at Boeing again. More bad news for that Dreamliner plane of theirs.
Unfortunately so. Of course, yesterday we were talking about that emergency landing in Japan. The Japanese authorities had grounded the plane. Well, now the Indian and United States authorities have done the same. Jocelyn Vardy has more.
From Dreamliner to nightmare for Boeing, a series of safety incidents over the past fortnight has forced the grounding of all Boeing's technologically advanced 787 airliners in the US, Japan and India. The last drama happened in Japan on Wednesday when a domestic All Nippon Airways flight was forced to take an emergency landing after a burning smell filled the cockpit. The problem appeared to be in the airplane's battery, which was found to be leaking electrolytes with burn marks around the outside.
One of the things that makes the 787 unique from other aircraft is the way they actually power the plane in flight. So all those seatback TVs for everyone watching movies, those are actually powered by these lithium-ion batteries on the 787.
With almost 3/4 of the global fleet of their latest aircraft sitting on the tarmac, this has been a humiliating blow for Boeing. It also looks set to hurt air carriers worldwide currently running the 787.
How each airline will deal with the business of keeping people flying, flight changes and such is their own problem. From our point of view, all we can say is that we're making every effort to ensure the safety of airline passengers.
The Dreamliner had already been plagued by numerous setbacks before its launch 3 years late. With no concrete news of when the grounded 787s will be able to leave the hangar, these recent woes only add to its uncertain future.
So, William, given that trouble for Boeing, how are the markets doing?
Well, you'll be unsurprised to hear that Boeing lost 3% in US trading on Wednesday and has lost a further 2% in after-hours trading. But you can see this is the state of play at the end of the session. The Nasdaq was helped by eBay. Their results were up 18% over the Christmas period, but the Dow Jones couldn't make it into positive territory. Let's take a look at Asia as well, and the Nikkei has closed in just about positive territory, but the rest of the markets there seeing negative territory for the rest of the day. A bit of an ebb in confidence, and of course ahead of China's GDP figures for the last quarter of 2012. They're coming out tomorrow, so maybe worries ahead of that.
OK, well, we're going to move to the US now, because some banks there have had to pay out for wrongly evicting people from their homes.
Yeah, this is an incredible story, really. Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley are the latest banks to come to a settlement over this. They're paying out $557 million for wrongly evicting people. Now, of course, in the US housing bubble, when that burst, millions of people were evicted from their homes. Now, 220,000 people were wrongly thrown out of their homes in 2009 and 2010. And it's something known as robo-signing in the US. Basically, their foreclosures were signed off by automated systems without having any human oversight. Obviously, a hugely traumatic issue for those involved, being thrown out of their homes wrongly, and altogether 12 banks and mortgage lenders have been affected. They're paying out $9 billion in compensation. Consumer Group saying that's still not enough.
Wow, I can imagine not. But we're going to move to the UK now because there's been another high-profile casualty on the high street. It seems barely a day goes by without one. Another company falling.
Well, exactly. I mean, we've heard about HMV, the music and entertainment retailer, Jessop's camera specialists. Now it's Blockbuster UK, the video rentals firm, putting 4,200 jobs at risk across the country. This could mean the number of empty shops in the UK hits 19%, according to one estimate, which would be an all-time high. And again, it's a familiar story of the internet being involved, taking the business from the traditional bricks and mortar retailers. And it is obviously a big shock and disappointment for those involved. But you could say that they didn't see it, didn't not see it coming, really. The writing has been on the wall. If we just look at this video by The Onion, the satirical website, back in 2008, they were already saying, this step into history, take a look at the Blockbuster tour. Basically, they said that historical reenactment societies were setting up Blockbuster chains to see how things used to be before the internet. So this is obviously part of the changing landscape for video rental.
Well, one day no one will remember what it was like to walk into a shop and rent a video. Now, moving on, here on France 24, all this week we've been featuring a series of reports on the issue of youth unemployment around the Eurozone. Today we're focusing on the epicentre of the crisis, Greece. Alexia Kafalis and Oliver Farry have this report.
Violetta packs her bags. Like thousands of young unemployed Greeks, she is leaving the country to find work abroad.
I'm 32 years old. I have a degree in fine art, but I'm being forced to leave my country because my job as an art teacher was done away with 18 months ago because of the crisis. Since then, I've been able to find nothing. Luckily, my parents helped me keep afloat.
Greece's economic crisis has devastated the job market. Unemployment affects 1 in 4 people and half of those under the age of 25. Violetta has decided to seek a better life in France.
I know that I won't find the same type of teaching job abroad, but I want to try my luck. I have asked friends who are putting me up to help me find any job at all. Even if it means waiting tables, it'll be better there.
Violetta's family are sceptical of her moving abroad without having a job guaranteed. But her aunt understands her predicament.
She is my favorite niece, and I know what sacrifices my brother made to put her through college. But what can you do on a minimum wage of 400 euros? We just hope things work out for her.
Violetta is angry at Greece's political classes whose 40 years of lax budgets have plunged future generations into debt.
Not a single political leader has put forward a real development plan. All they care about is if we stay in the Eurozone or go back to the drachma.
As she prepares to leave, Violetta now hopes that once the crisis is over, she might be able to return to Greece to live.
And finally, William, quite an incredible tale here. The man who outsourced his own job to China. Tell us more.
Yeah, a US software developer apparently gave 1/5 of his salary to a Chinese company. They did his job while he surfed the internet. It's incredible, really. The company he worked for only found out because they saw on their internet records that that someone in China was accessing their internal network every single day and had been for several months. And they thought, well, are we being hacked into? Is there some sort of security breach? No, in fact, this guy had posted his own security clearance card to the Chinese company. They did his work while he sat in the office doing not very much all day long, and he even got them to work in US business hours. So it must have been 2 a.m. in China while they were doing his job for him, but it looked like he was working.
Cunning, and I think you said he hasn't got a job any longer.
He no longer works for the company.
But he did use his time very well looking at cat videos on YouTube, which is what we all want to do, of course. That's all from us for now, though. Thank you very much indeed, William, for that look at today's business stories. And Stuart Norval will be here with all the latest news headlines in just a moment after the weather.